Michael King here from the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre. Today I want to share with you some understanding of what Cosmosis personal spiritual alchemy is all about. Here at the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre, we provide a total package of personal, professional and spiritual growth, which involves training, counselling, healing, coaching and mentoring. We call this process Cosmosis Personal Spiritual Alchemy. I want to provide you with some understanding of the differences between training, coaching, counselling, healing and mentoring, so that you can distinguish Cosmosis Personal Spiritual Alchemy from some other approaches to learning and development which are simply training based. Now, coaching and mentoring are not a form of training. I say this because the approach is fundamentally different. While training and coaching both promote, encourage and facilitate learning, they do so with different approaches. Training is about teaching specific skills and providing you with information. Alternatively, our personal spiritual coaching has two important aspects which involve both facilitating the actualization of someone's understanding so that they are able to learn from their own life experience, and also about how you translate those skills and information that you've been trained in into real life situations. Training tends to be more about the knowledge and the mechanics of something. It's more about the skills involved. Coaching is about putting those skills into practice in your life. In short, training is usually more about attending dedicated classes to develop skills. Coaching is all about how you apply those skills within the context of your day-to-day living. Coaching can happen on the fly, such as in the workplace, when you are coaching someone while they are performing a task or a function. Or coaching can be reflective, in that you help the person to realise how they could have performed better with something that has already happened, and thus perform better in future under similar circumstances. Our coaching can also be about being prepared for events which are realistically likely to happen given the particular life path that you have chosen for yourself. Training is also more typically carried out in groups. Coaching is usually a one-on-one process tailored to the individual's needs. Training is also delivered typically by a teacher, while coaching is typically delivered by someone who is an adept practitioner of something. You know, a great teacher is not necessarily a great practitioner of their craft, and a great practitioner is not necessarily a great teacher of that craft. For clarity, I want to give you an example. I've met many amazing musicians, particularly guitar players, as the guitar is my musical instrument of choice. Most of these amazing guitar players, though, are terrible trainers. When you ask them something about playing the guitar, they just say, "Oh well, you just do it like this." And that is extremely unhelpful. For them, it's just second nature, meaning it just happens naturally and they're not consciously aware what's happening. Because it all happens unconsciously for them, they're just terrible at training others in the actual mechanics of playing the guitar. However, these same players are often excellent coaches for other guitar players who are already proficient with the instrument but want to take their playing to the next level. They're often able to transfer their higher understanding in unspoken communications with other guitar players who just get it somehow. But they have to have that grounding in already being quite a good guitar player to start with. On the other hand, almost all the very best guitar teachers that I've met, the ones who are amazing at training others how to play the guitar, they're not really what I'd call virtuoso by any means. They're okay players, but they're not great. So being adept at some skill or function does not necessarily mean that you will be a good teacher of that skill or function. Although they are distinct activities, these two approaches of training and coaching can work very well when used together. Training is often inspiring and generates a lot of enthusiasm about change for the future. Then the person needs to be coached about how they can transfer these new skills and their enthusiasm into their day-to-day livings. This is why just going to workshops is seldom ever going to translate into behaviour change or any kind of long-term growth. As soon as you go back to your day-to-day life, the enthusiasm quickly wanes, and before you know it, you are back to the same old routine. Here at the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre, you integrate new skills and information, and then you're coached as to how you apply that in your life and translate it into permanent growth and behaviour change. Now, coaching is not mentoring. There are some superficial similarities between coaching and mentoring, as they're both typically one-on-one conversations aimed at facilitating personal, professional or spiritual development. But there are also some major differences. A mentor is more of a senior person with a long track record of demonstrated achievement and attainment, who shares experience and advises a junior person working in the same field. A coach, on the other hand, is not necessarily senior to that person being coached and does not typically give advice or pass on experience. Instead, he or she uses questions and feedback to facilitate the other person's thinking and practical learning processes. While the coach does not need to be senior, they do need to have a certain expertise within the area and scope of the coaching experience for the client. A mentor is not typically the manager of the person being mentored, but rather someone who is available for advice and guidance when needed. Coaching, on the other hand, is frequently and very often delivered by managers to their teams of subordinates. What about coaching and counselling? Coaching is not counselling. Again, there may be some superficial similarity in that both of these activities are one-to-one conversations, but their tone and purpose are very different. Counselling deals with personal problems. Coaching addresses overall performance and proficiency within one's life. Counselling begins with a problem that you want to solve or eliminate in your life, whereas coaching usually begins with a goal or an aspiration that you want to work towards. Counselling is normally sought by people having difficulties coping with life. Counselling trains people how to integrate coping strategies and coping mechanisms into their lives. Counselling is not needed generally by people who are successfully dealing with life's challenges. Most people who seek coaching are already successful but want to be more successful. Coaching is used just as often by high achievers as beginners in some field, yet also equally by people who are stuck in a rut and want to make some changes in their lives. Most forms of counselling focus on the past and the origin or roots of problems. Coaching, however, focuses on the future and developing a workable solution to change the likely life outcomes. As the coaching process proceeds, one inevitably runs into roadblocks which are caused by hanging on to painful past experiences. So then counselling needs to come into play so that the new challenges ahead may be met with upcast eyes and a bright and irrepressible enthusiasm. Okay, so let's define healing now. Healing is defined as the restoration of health. This may involve repair, rejuvenation, restoration, and or regeneration on all levels of your being. Here at the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre, we understand that lasting personal, professional, spiritual growth requires a mix of all these approaches. So we work with a combination of training, counselling, healing, coaching and mentoring. In order to facilitate this lasting personal, professional and spiritual growth, we have a whole host of trainers, coaches and mentors. But we also have a naturopath, a psychologist and a holistic medical doctor on staff. We also regularly facilitate live-in retreats, which allow you to take time off from the demands of your day-to-day routine and integrate these new skills and information with fellow initiates. You then have time to practice these new skills before returning to your home with renewed enthusiasm and ideas. Then you are coached as how you apply all that new knowing in your day-to-day livings. So this is all about restoring wholeness on all these levels of your multidimensional being. Our mentors are master practitioners in their own right. All of our coaches and mentors have a government-recognised qualification. The early phases of the work on your self-mastery are done in group training sessions, and then you move on to counselling, healing, coaching and mentoring that is tailored to your specific goals, aspirations and chosen learning. Every new phase of the Cosmosis process involves more training in which you will integrate more information and new understanding. Then you will proceed to a coaching, counselling and healing stage wherein this new understanding is implemented in your life. Any fears around success as well as any failure or sabotage scripts which present as either a barrier to attainment or self-imposed limitation are processed out before you proceed to the next phase of the alchemical process. So now I need to talk briefly about what Cosmosis spiritual alchemy is not. Firstly, this is not a spiritual ashram. Ashrams are a many thousand-year-old tradition in India, and nowadays they have spread all over the world. While most of the people running an ashram outside India are gurus from India or their direct disciples, nowadays an ashram can be conducted by any person of any gender and any race, religion and culture if that person proclaims themselves as a guru, and of course other people need to be gullible enough to worship them. Ashrams are associated with gurus. There are no gurus here at the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre. Well, actually, we may have a few ex-gurus from other lives, perhaps, but they're all recovering very nicely, thank you. And they've all learnt their lesson as well. Gurus attempt to transmit gnosis, spiritual knowledge, by having their devoted followers, known as devotees, enter into a codependent relationship with them, wherein the devotee hands over a measure of their personal autonomy to the guru. Now, in this day and age, what a peculiar notion that is. In my not-so-humble opinion, and from loads of experience in helping ex-devotees to heal, many Western ashrams are just cleverly disguised cults. Check out my other video on cults, and also the one on spiritual addiction to learn more. I have personally never met nor known of an advanced spiritual practitioner that has attained their proficiency by giving their power away to a guru. I have, however, occasionally met some advanced spiritual practitioners that are advanced spiritual practitioners in spite of working with a guru, but that's an entirely different phenomena, kind of a negative learning experience. Anyway, hopefully enough said. So the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre is for functional human beings who want to integrate more personal and or professional as well as spiritual success into their lives. Something else that's important to understand is that we are not about dealing with major personality or psychological disorders. There is a difference between idiosyncrasies and personality disorders. All of our coaches are trained in recognising personality disorders, and if any clients present with any such symptoms, then they are referred to our resident psychologist for evaluation. Now, if our psychologist feels that the issues are minor issues, then that's within the scope of our counselling, healing, coaching and mentoring, because everyone has minor little personality fears and furballs. But if those are more major, then the client will be referred to an appropriate medical professional. So what are the initial requirements for entry to the Cosmosis training? Well, you need to be a non-smoker to commence our Cosmosis training. Now, I was a smoker for many years. When I grew up, everyone smoked, at least in the small town I grew up in. I took up smoking because I did not know any better, and I was not aware of the dangers involved. When the dangers became obvious to me, I gave up out of self-love. But in this day and age, everyone knows the dangers of smoking, and you'd have to be a fool to smoke. So, no smokers. You will also need to have been free of any recreational drug addiction for a period of 12 months, and only light use of other addictive drugs like coffee and alcohol are allowed. You must be committed to eliminating the use of recreational drugs completely over time, even coffee and alcohol. Watch my videos on coffee and alcohol, please. You must also not be in the care of a medical professional for any major psychological disturbance or disorder. You need to not be on antidepressants or psych medications of any description. Other than that, it just takes a willing heart and an open mind. Now, we hope to meet you soon at one of our Cosmosis transformational events. I thank you for watching, keep on loving, and welcome home, my friend.